Hey everybody, this is Joel Pasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to the NHL Lowdown second round preview of the Stanley Cup playoffs with me, broadcasting legend Norm Rumack. Norm, by the way, there were 8 series in the first round. Guess how many I got right?
How many?
8 out of 8. Mr. Perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, you
That's not too bad.
Yeah, you were just short, like you always are, just short from 8 out of 8. Yeah, I think you got 6 out of 8, right?
You know what? I don't keep track.
All right, you got 6 out of 8.
Whatever.
Now let's get. But before we talk about the second round, the game sevens in the first round, Dallas, Colorado, and Winnipeg, St. Louis, especially Winnipeg, St. Louis, double overtime. Winnipeg coming back from 3-1 down with like 2 minutes left to go in the third, and then scoring the goal in double overtime. And the crowd in Winnipeg makes you feel amazing that you're Canadian, eh? You should start the show with singing "Oh Canada," Norm.
Well, Canada goes for every team in Canada. So, but no, Winnipeg, it was to score with 1.5 seconds left on the clock. I mean, that's the stuff of legend, right? You don't see 1.5 seconds often on a goal to go to overtime, then to win it in overtime. No, the Winnipeg Jets are a real Cinderella story. I mean, they were. They won the President's Trophy, so it's not an accident that they're an excellent team. It's not like a fluke or something. But, with the goaltending problems that Connor Hellebuck experienced, some tough games where he's pulled from the net. And even the first 2 goals in game number 7, left some people wondering, all the analysts at the first period intermission were talking about, well, should they have pulled their goalie and made a change. And then Connor stood on his head, played well in the third and into the overtime. And it's an amazing story. And the whiteout, you got to love the whiteout. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating to see a stadium. It's almost like sorry, go ahead.
Any comparison between Scotiabank Arena fans and Winnipeg fans? The fans,
well,
they're off the hook.
Well, even you're talking about Toronto, comparing to Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto, Winnipeg.
Yeah. Well, in Toronto, let's face it, they've got the big corporate base and those platinum seats, and those folks are, a little less outgoing. I mean, they stand up and cheer, but the corporates are, and good for them. They how many people can afford those seats? So they're lucky, but
with the salary I pay.
Yeah, the next life I can. Not even the next life. In the next 5 lifetimes, I'd be lucky to afford that. But they're, maybe it's a little bit overdone in terms of expressing the fact that in the platinum seats, we used to joke, well, people are doing their, not just guys, but people are doing their stock deals and their business investments and their business deals on the phone while they're watching the game. So maybe they're not quite as vocal and as enthusiastic as folks in other arenas. I'm not saying it doesn't go on elsewhere, but in Toronto, it's particularly noted. I mean, I'm born and raised in Toronto. I worked at Maple Leaf Gardens. I worked at the sporting goods store there, Doug Laurie. So I know what back in the day, they were the Reds, and then they were the Golds, and then they were the Platinums, but it tends to be, it's higher income folks who are sitting in there, and a lot of them are corporately owned. And when you're in a big market, you're going to get a lot of corporate sponsors. And in Toronto, the arena, they make noise like everybody else, but it's a little more modest, let's say, than what you would see in Winnipeg with the whiteout. And anyway, it's just different. But the Leaf fans, certainly to their credit, the one thing they do well is they travel as well as any fan base in professional sports. You always see a Leaf sweater at an out-of-town game. I did that a long time ago as a young Leaf fan when it wasn't popular. So I saw them play in places like Atlanta, St. Louis. A lot of people, including myself, would go to Buffalo. That was like a fun thing to do. And that was when the Sabres had a really good team. And Detroit. So I've seen the Leafs play in Chicago. And like I say, I was going at a time when there weren't a lot of Pittsburgh. I saw them playing Philadelphia when it was scary to be in Philadelphia wearing a Leaf sweater. I was there when there was only two of us wearing Leaf shirts in the entire spectrum, their old arena. Actually, the people were quite nice to us because we didn't say anything rude about the cities that we went to. We just cheered for the Leafs, but we didn't say anything bad about the home teams and the cities that we were visiting. So we got along quite well. They would boo the Leafs and insult them and use all kinds of language I can't use on the podcast, but no, we had fun. But now it's very common for Leaf fans to travel to faraway places, whether it's Florida or California or even Utah. You always see Leaf fans. So while they may not be the loudest bunch of all the fan bases in Canada or elsewhere, they certainly travel as well. And when the Leafs go on the road anywhere in Canada, you'll always see Leaf fans. So they've got that history being an original six team. And you see the same to a lesser degree with Montreal fans. They travel, but I think the Leaf fans are probably the most well-traveled of any fan base in the National Hockey League.
All right. We have actually a comment from your good friend, actually my good friend, but Mark Askin says, Norm's talking about all these corporate guys ordering food and all that. Joe, tell him that he goes in the media box and orders the pizza. No. See, Mark Askin's asking this, all right? Stop ordering pizza. You're at the game.
I don't order it. I just tell you. Yeah, well, when I had a media pass, I didn't order. I just took as much as I could.
This is the problem. All right, let's get to round two preview here. We'll start off with Winnipeg. Winnipeg plays Dallas. Winnipeg's the home team. They get the home game 7 advantage. It's should be a great series. Dallas barely getting by Colorado, and Ratton scoring a hat trick in game 7 and all that. Who do you like, Dallas or the whiteout?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of 6-7 game series because the parity, the National Hockey League has always wanted parity, and they've certainly got parity now. You're seeing that, even Ottawa put up a good fight against Toronto, 3 overtimes and a 6-game series, which was my prediction was a 6-game series. So
yes, his prediction
even the teams,
6-game series.
Yeah, so even the teams that you wouldn't think would be that tough, but Ottawa didn't surprise me. Ottawa's got a bright future, and the Maple Leafs had to give a good effort, like as you would expect. Of course, they got to get a good effort, but anyway, from what I'm expecting in these next rounds is 6-7 game series. So I'm going to pick Winnipeg in 7. I think the whiteout is intimidating is too strong a word, but I think it definitely impacts the visiting team, and that's why this previous series with Winnipeg was such a compelling series. It was St. Louis was pretty much like a homer series. Like, the teams play strong at home and not so well on the road. And I think Connor Hellebuck, with his effort in the third period and overtime, overcame if he was doubting himself. And you never know with a goalkeeper, but he had a bit of a slump in a few of those games. But I think he proved when it really counted in the third period and overtime, the period and a half or whatever it was of overtime, that he's worthy of his Vezina and MVP type trophies. We'll see what he'll get the Vezina, but I think we're looking at a 7-game series there. Basically, Dallas is a great team. And, they're going to be very strong at home. They've got a good fan base, too. So I think we're looking at another 7-game series and with the home teams prevailing. So I'll give Winnipeg a slight edge and pick them in 7.
I agree with you. I think Winnipeg does get by Dallas, and it's good for Winnipeg. You see the crowd there, and it's long overdue for Winnipeg. Now, let's go to the next Western Conference. It's the Edmonton Oilers into Vegas, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. Who do you like in that one? Because that's going to be a tremendous series. Also, the key, Edmonton, you saw it. They're winning 4 in a row, down to nothing. They won 4-0, beat the Kings, but the goaltending is still an issue. Do they start their number 1 goalie all year, or they start Pickard, who was great the last 3-4 games against the LA Kings? Who do you like in that series?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a homer here and go with the Canadian teams. So, well, at least out west, I'm gonna go with the Canadian teams. So, I'm gonna pick Edmonton over Vegas, but I also see a tough, hard-fought 7-game series there. So let's see how it goes. I mean, there's not much to pick between two clubs. Last year the Oilers went right to the wire in the Stanley Cup final before losing to Florida. And Vegas is a relatively newcomer to the National Hockey League, relatively speaking. They went to back-to-back Stanley Cups, including winning one. So, yeah, it's another very entertaining. There's going to be a lot of entertaining hockey in this second round, and that'll be another one. But I'll go with Edmonton in 7.
No wonder it's going to snow in May. I agree with you also. Edmonton in 7. And we have a question. Maybe it's a friend of yours. Patricia wants to know who you like in that series. Well, you said that. And have you been to Vegas? And is it true what they say?
Yeah.
Once you're in Vegas, it stays in Vegas.
Well, better stay in Vegas, that's for sure.
Well, what are you doing in Vegas then? Why are you not telling everybody? What do you mean better stay in Vegas? What are you doing?
Well, that's why it stays in Vegas, because you don't tell anybody what you're. No, I had fun. I've been there twice, not recently, but I've been there twice. No, it's a beautiful city. It's a lot of fun, and you don't have to be a big spending gambler. You can just gamble on the penny slot machines or dime or nickel slot machines if you really want to.
I go to the big,
Yeah.
I need to make money. Show me my money.
Yeah,
Show me my money.
they have lots of great shows there. So there's always something to do, and give the National Hockey League a lot of credit because they were the first major professional team to go to Las Vegas. And now everybody's there, including soon it'll be in a couple of years the Oakland Athletics are going to be in that neighborhood.
Yes.
Right now they're in Sacramento.
Right now, the newest team in Vegas. Come on, the Desert Dogs from the National Lacrosse League. Norm, you're supposed to know lacrosse. Come on. All right.
Yeah, well,
but the difference.
I'm a little bit behind on my lacrosse, but good for them. They picked a good market.
And the difference between Edmonton and Winnipeg. Winnipeg has the Game 7 home game. Edmonton has to travel on the road to Vegas for Game 7. So, but I'm calling Edmonton also. Now, let's get to the East. We'll leave the Leafs for later on. The East, Carolina at Washington. That should also be an amazing series there. All 4 series are going to be pretty good. Well, what do you say, Norm?
Yeah, I think, again, we're looking at a 6 or 7 game series. I'll flip a coin, but, Carolina's good. Washington's tough, highly skilled. They got very physical players there like Wilson, and Ovi can be as physical as anybody in the game. But I'll give a slight edge to Washington in a hard-fought series. Like I say, all these second-round series, I think, have a lot of entertainment value to offer. So I'll go with Washington in, I'm trying to think, 6 or 7. I'll say Washington in 7 in this series.
You know what? I think Washington's going to win. But remember, the last time the Leafs were in the conference final, do you remember who they played? It was Carolina. It was Carolina, and everybody thought Maple Leafs will go to the Stanley Cup because, the Carolina, and then they played Buffalo in the Western Conference or Eastern Conference final. Sorry?
And, sorry. Give me one. Just cover for me for 1 minute, Joe.
All right. So, so that's
for me for 1 minute.
Yeah, Norm has to go to washroom. So, Carolina, I like Washington, and Ovi has done it this year, beating Gretzky's goal record and everything like that. And Washington has home advantage. And let's face it, Washington's head coach Carberry was the assistant coach of the Maple Leafs for a couple years. But I just sneaky feeling if the Maple Leafs do beat Florida, and I know Norm, he's a big leaf blower. You're a big leaf blower. You're going to pick Florida, but if the Maple Leafs make it to the conference final, how apropos will it be that they meet Carolina? So I'm going to go with Carolina in 7 there. All right. Obviously, we do Maple Leafs Forever pregame, and sometimes if Norm's around, we could do postgame. But let's talk about Florida and the Maple Leafs. And by the way, we're going to do a Maple Leafs Forever. Also, check it out on the Fired Up Network social media. Florida, defending Stanley Cup champions, and they went back to Stanley Cups. They lost the first year against the Maple Leafs, who finally made it out of the first round, second time in 25 years. Do they make it to the Eastern Conference Final? I already know I'm going to say no because he is a leaf blower, but he was a bigger leaf blower back in 1995-96. Go ahead, Norm.
Well, to me, when you're talking about taking on, like the Leafs are the Stanley Cup champions, and, they went to a Stanley Cup final the year before that, too, before they won it last year against Edmonton. So, to me, you're the champion until somebody knocks you off. So, no disrespect to the Maple Leafs. I think, again, we're looking at a hard-fought, very entertaining series. But I give a slight edge because Florida, all those injured players that they were missing towards the end of the season are back and healthy. And you look at how quickly they put away Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay isn't exactly too shabby. They've got a few Stanley Cups recently to their name, too. So I say this with all due respect to Mr. Berube and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs have a ton of talent, but I think Florida's experience and what they've gained in winning the Cup last year, I give them a slight edge. They play strong. They play tough. I think Washington and Florida are very similar in a lot of ways. Of course, Washington, a recent Stanley Cup winner in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll give Florida a slight edge. I can see several overtimes, but I'll give Florida that slight edge, picking Florida in 7 games over Toronto. But it's not to say, when you say 7 games, game 7, I don't know if there's, we'll set aside the Winnipeg game. I don't know if there's a home ice advantage or not. Sometimes it seems that there is, sometimes not. But I'll pick Florida to win this series in 7 games. And like I say, I think we could see 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 overtime games, because there's not much to pick between the two clubs other than Florida's recent experience in Stanley Cup championship. So it wouldn't be an insult to the Maple Leafs if they lost to Florida. And I don't think it'd be an insult to Florida if they lost to Toronto. But you have to pick a winner, and I tend to lean towards the incumbent and the champion because they've got that experience and that know-how. So, again, I'll go with Florida in 7 over Toronto.
Once again, he's going to be wrong. I picked the Maple Leafs to beat Florida, and it's going to be very good because Florida, reigning defending Stanley Cup champions, they already got by Maple Leafs. They're one of our biggest rivals, Ottawa. Now beating the defending Stanley Cup champions could be another thing, and then they go to round 3. But I want to say this. Congratulations. I know no Norm wants to say it, to Mitch Marner, who had a baby. It's Mitch Marner just turned 28 years old. Also, Mitch Marner is going to make like $50 million. He's a free agent. Tavares is a free agent. So a lot of things are going to happen after the season for Maple Leafs. Last question here, and I'm going to ask you this. Does the Maple Leafs sign Mitch Marner, and how much do you think?
Well, I don't know. We'll see what their cap are. Like, congratulations to Mitch on the birth of his son. It's very nice and good for him and his family. But yeah, I don't know, Joe, what he's going to sign for. I have no idea. I think the Maple Leafs will work something out with Marner to keep him in Toronto. But how much he's going to sign for, I have no idea. We got to see, how much cap space do they have after the Stanley Cup? How many players do they keep? How many players do they release? What kind of trades do they make? There's all kinds of dynamics that go into that. But I'll predict that the Maple Leafs will re-sign Mitch Marner. How's that?
All right, that's a good prediction. Even though maybe it's wrong or it's right, who knows? We'll wait till after the year. But this has been the NHL Lowdown second round preview, and hopefully it's as good as the first round. Norm, tell everybody how they can get you social media wise.
Yeah, right here on the Fired Up Network is the easiest place. I'm with my good buddy Joseph Pasek, the founder and president, and CEO, and mayor of.
Don't forget the president of the provinces of Canada, the mayor-elect of North America, soon to run for the mayor of Mozambique. Spell it.
Yeah, I'll let you take care of the spelling.
All right.
But anyway, you can find me here usually Mondays and Thursdays, and sometimes a couple of other days, covering all the major sports. We cover NBA with our good friend Tracy Murray. You'll see that during the week also, the NBA playoffs. So we've got it all covered for you right here every day, every week on the Fired Up Network. And you can find me right here with Joseph Pasek.
All right. Thanks a lot, Norm.
Thank you, sir.